Hello and welcome to this David Icke Connector videocast. Well, some years ago, 2016, when Donald Trump was elected, the general opinion was that it was a shock that he'd somehow bucked the system. My own view at the time, which I wrote about and spoke about, was that Trump becoming president was planned all along by the cabal that operate from the shadows and manipulate through both American political parties, making America what it is and what Britain is and what almost every other country is, a one-party state with different masks to obscure that fact. And the question then was, well, why would they want Trump in the presidency? Well, there was a number of reasons which I've written about and talked about, but in the light of current events, there's one particular reason. They wanted Trump to be a figure around which they could divide and thus rule the United States by breaking up American society into basically two camps: those that hate Trump and those that love Trump, and to develop that division and make it more and more extreme until it moved from verbal civil war, which is what we've been having, and censorship civil war, censoring one side and letting the other say what it likes, to move into what has been planned all along, which is a form of physical civil war, and we're starting to see that unfold. And what we're looking at is a form of Marxism that's being developed, and I will talk more later about the way that Marxism plays out. But in my new book, which is out soon and will be is actually available for pre-order now on davidicke.com, The Trigger, I actually address this subject in part of it, and I highlight a man called Saul Alinsky. He died in 1972. He was known as the godfather of community organizing, community manipulating. And among students of Alinsky's work were and are Hillary Clinton, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and former President Barack Obama. And in a book that Alinsky wrote in 1971, it's called Rules for Radicals, he, among his rules for overthrowing the established order, was to focus upon a common enemy, he said. Once the enemy figure was established, the community would come together in united opposition and put aside differences to focus on a common goal. It's the classic, create an enemy and then focus everyone on that enemy. And this is why Trump was brought to power. One major reason, there are others, to be that common figure of focusing hatred by one side of society. And this is what Alinsky wrote. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, polarize it. Don't try to attack abstract corporations or bureaucracies. Identify a responsible individual. Ignore attempts to shift or spread the blame. Now, people who've read my books and watched these videos will be well aware that you're not looking at a Trump supporter, nor are you looking at a supporter of the other face, the other mask on the one-party state, the Democrats. But if we're going to be mature and adult, we have to see the mind game that's being played here. So everything now that happens negatively in America is the fault of Trump. It's all Trump. And this is so focused attention of the Trump opposition upon Trump that so many other problems and the non-simplistic answers to those problems are forgotten, because it's all Trump's fault. And as part of this division of American society, and it's happening in other countries too, to create this structure for civil war, is to play races off against each other. Actually, play races that are not white off against a race that is white. It's divide and rule. It's classic. And so what you've had from the moment that Trump was elected is the emergence of this label of condemnation and demonization called white supremacy, racism, toxic masculinity, which, you know, when you look at the way it's emphasized, means white toxic masculinity. The suppression of the feminine among Muslim masculine toxicity is never mentioned, because that's not part of the agenda. And so the idea is to divide society along racial lines. This is why all this white supremacy and what have you has been so emphasized, not least, of course, in the wake of the horrific mass shootings of the last few days. And the idea, and this is pure classic Marxism, as I'll come to, is to create distinct groups in the public mind and then play those groups off against each other to transform society in the way that you want. And this is something that requires people to judge others not by their individual behavior, but by their racial group or their political persuasion, overwhelmingly racial group. My philosophy is, or my way of looking at the world and what people say, is to look at what people say, not to look at the color of their skin or their political persuasion, but to listen to what comes out of their mouth and see if I feel it has validity. And it's one thing is worth remembering. No one in the whole history of humankind has ever had nothing to say at all that doesn't have validity. You might disagree with the vast majority of what they say, but no one has ever lived in this world and not said something that has validity. What group judgment does is forget all that. If you're in this group, you are bad and everything you say must be opposed. Take Trump. You look at the extremists opposing him, and it doesn't matter what he says, unless he's supporting wars against people with brown faces in the Middle East or in South America, Venezuela, oh yeah, we'll support him then. But apart from that, anything Trump says must be opposed. Why? Because Trump said it.
Ja, mit dem heutigen Video greife ich das Thema des vorletzten Videos noch einmal auf. Wie steht David Icke zu Donald Trump? Wie sagt es ja ganz eindeutig. Dennoch gibt es natürlich Menschen, die, und das habe ich auch im vorletzten Video schon erwähnt, die Trump als Heilsbringer sehen, die da eine ganz andere Ansicht haben. Ich möchte euch einfach bitten, toleriert das. Toleriert euch gegenseitig eure Ansichten, Meinungen. Es wird sich zeigen, was nun zutrifft. Irgendwie dachte ich in letzter Zeit häufiger an einen Rollercoaster. Das Lied von Ronan Keating ging mir immer durch den Kopf. Life is a Rollercoaster. Ich habe es unten verlinkt und deswegen habe ich auch diesen kleinen Film im Hintergrund laufen mit der Achterbahn. Das Leben ist tatsächlich wie eine Achterbahn. Es geht rauf und runter, mal geht es einem gut, dann wieder schlecht. Wir leben in einer dualen Welt, vergesst das nicht. Nichts ist gleichbleibend. Alles in Bewegung. Der Ronan Keating, wie er so über allem schwebt, das möchte ich gerne als Beispiel für mich auch nehmen, dass ich mich nicht zu sehr in ein Thema verrenne, sondern eine Leichtigkeit noch empfinden muss, um mich wohlzufühlen. Also ich hänge mich nicht zu sehr rein. Ich interessiere mich zwar für viele Themen, aber ja, so aus einer Leichtigkeit heraus, sondern das immer versuchen muss, wird man erstarren und das ist sicher nicht der Sinn dieses Lebens, dieses Spiels.